Before the stadiums, before the meat dress, before the world knew her name, there was just a girl called Lady Gaga, and her story doesn't begin on a red carpet. It begins in a small apartment in New York City. She was born on March 28th, 1986, as Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germanotta. Her mother, Cynthia Louise Bissett, worked in telecommunications and was known for her discipline and emotional strength. Her father, Joseph Germanotta, was an entrepreneur who would later open an Italian restaurant. She wasn't raised in extreme poverty. She wasn't raised in luxury either. She grew up in a hard-working Italian-American household where the effort mattered and excuses didn't. But from the beginning, Stephanie was different. At just 4 years old, she was already playing piano. Not because she was forced to, but because she needed to. Music wasn't a hobby. It was structure. It was control. It was escape. While other kids were playing outside, she was writing melodies. While others were trying to fit in, she was trying to understand why she couldn't. She attended the Convent of the Sacred Heart, a private Catholic school. That's where the first real battle started. She was too much, too loud, too theatrical, too ambitious. Classmates mocked her appearance, her intensity, her dream. She later revealed she was bullied, pushed into lockers, laughed at, excluded. Imagine being 14 years old and openly saying, "I'm going to be famous one day." That kind of confidence doesn't make you popular. But here's the twist. It wasn't arrogance. It was survival. At 17, she earned early admission to the prestigious Tisch School of the Arts at New York University. She was one of the youngest students there. She studied music theory, composition, and performance. She trained seriously. She worked relentlessly. But something inside her felt constrained. She didn't just want to master the rules. She wanted to bend them. At 19, she made a decision that terrified her family. She dropped out of college to pursue music full-time. Her parents gave her a clear condition. If she failed, she would move back home. And at first, she failed. She signed a contract with Def Jam Recordings. It looked like her breakthrough moment, but only 3 months later, she was dropped. No explanation, no warning, just silence. Imagine chasing a dream your entire life and being told you're not enough before you even begin. That moment could have ended everything. Instead, it became the beginning. She started performing in small clubs on the Lower East Side of New York. Dark venues, small crowds, unpredictable reaction, and that's where something shifted. She began experimenting, bold makeup, outrageous outfits, theatrical performances. It wasn't marketing strategy, it was art. Stefani, the insecure, bullied girl, was building Lady Gaga. Her stage name was inspired by Radio Gaga by Queen. It wasn't random. Freddie Mercury represented theatrical freedom, defiance, excess turned into art. Gaga understood something critical. If people were going to stare at her, she would control what they saw. But while her public persona grew louder, her private life became dark. She entered a toxic relationship that deeply affected her confidence. She doubted her talent. She questioned her worth. During that time, she was writing songs for other artists, crafting hits behind the scenes while her own name remained invisible. She was talented. Very talented. The industry just hadn't realized it. In 2007, she met producer Red One. Together, they began shaping a sound that felt different. Electronic, dramatic, addictive. It wasn't just pop. It had tension, it had attitude, it had identity. But before the world danced to Just Dance, before the awards, before the headline, there were nights of fear. Nights where she felt like that bullied teenager again. Nights when quitting felt easy. The difference, she had discovered something powerful. Pain could be transformed into performance. Insecurity could become power. And being too different could become a revolution. And just when it seemed like her breakthrough was finally within reach, something happened that would test not only her career, but her identity itself. When Just Dance exploded in 2008, the world officially met Lady Gaga. What seemed like just another club hit quickly became a declaration of war against predictable pop. Then came Poker Face, and then The Phenomenon. Her debut album, The Fame, wasn't just selling music, it was selling identity. Gaga wasn't simply a singer, she was a concept. Bubble dresses, futuristic glasses, performances that felt more like avant-garde theater than concerts. The industry didn't know whether to label her a genius or a spectacle. The audience made the decision for them. In 2010, she released The Fame Monster, with tracks like Bad Romance and Telephone. Every video became a cultural event. Every public appearance was unpredictable. And as her popularity skyrocketed, so did the pressure. Gaga began speaking openly about something few global stars discussed at the time: mental health. She revealed struggles with depression, anxiety, and deep trauma. Years later, she shared that she had survived sexual assault as a teenager, an experience that profoundly shaped her sense of power, trust, and self-worth. Fame didn't erase the pain, it amplified it. Exhausting world tours, constant scrutiny, harsh criticism about her body and weight, everything began taking a toll. During the Born This Way ball tour, the physical pain became unbearable. In 2013, she announced she was suffering from severe synovitis, an inflammation of the joints that forced her to cancel the tour and undergo surgery. For someone whose identity was built on the stage, being forced to stop was devastating. But this was another turning point. Instead of disappearing, she reinvented herself. In 2014, she released a jazz album with Tony Bennett. Many critics thought it was a mistake, that theatrical pop couldn't survive without spectacle. They were wrong. Gaga proved that behind the outrageous fashion was discipline, training, respect for musical tradition. She didn't need shock value to stand. She had technique. In 2016, she released Joanne, a more intimate album inspired by her late aunt. She lowered the visual volume and raised the emotional one. And just when some believed her peak moment had passed, she performed at the Super Bowl Love the Halftime Show and reminded the world she was still unstoppable. Then came cinema. In 2018, she starred in A Star is Born alongside Bradley Cooper. Her performance was so raw and honest that it shattered the pop star acting stereotype. She won the Academy Award for Best Original Song for Shallow. The same industry that once dropped her now applauded her standing up. And still, the internal battle didn't disappear. In 2020, she spoke publicly about living with fibromyalgia, a chronic pain condition that affects her daily life. What makes it powerful isn't just the diagnosis, it's knowing she rehearses choreography while her body hurts. That's real resilience, not the absence of fear, not the absence of pain, but the decision to move forward with both. To this day, Gaga isn't just one of the most awarded artists of the 21st century. She's an entrepreneur with House Labs, an advocate for the LGBTQ+ community, a vocal supporter of mental health awareness, and co-founder of the Born This Way Foundation, focused on youth empowerment. The girl who was shoved into lockers now uses her voice so others don't feel alone. The young artist who was dropped from her first contract now negotiates from power. The woman once called too weird turned that weirdness into an empire. And here's the uncomfortable question: if she was rejected, humiliated, fired, criticized for her body, forced to cancel tours, face trauma, chronic pain, and still keeps creating, how many times do we quit for far less? Because maybe the real story of Lady Gaga isn't about fame. It's about identity, about turning pain into purpose, about realizing that being different isn't a weakness, it's leverage. So, now that you've seen her evolution, from Stephanie to global icon, do you think she was destined to become a legend, or was it the pain that forged her into one?